Beneath the rolling waves and endless blue, there's a world lost to time, a silent, shadowed realm where history sleeps in ruins, treasures, and secrets. Imagine standing on the deck of a ship, staring into the water below, knowing entire cities, ancient monuments, and forgotten civilizations lie just out of sight, buried by centuries of tides and tides of history. The ocean doesn't give up its secrets easily, but when it does, the discoveries rewrite what we thought we knew about our past. From legendary lost cities like Atlantis to sunken temples swallowed by earthquakes, these underwater mysteries aren't just stories, they're real, waiting to be uncovered, and they hold clues to humanity's most enduring enigmas. What if I told you there are places beneath the waves where time stands still, where the echoes of ancient ceremonies linger in crumbling stone, where shipwrecks cradle untold riches, and where entire settlements vanished overnight, swallowed by the sea? These aren't just fantastical tales, they're real locations, scattered across the globe, each with its own haunting story. Picture the ruins of a once great empire now home only to darting fish, or a battlefield where warships sank, taking their secrets to the ocean floor. The sea is the world's greatest museum, and its exhibits are hidden in plain sight, just beneath the surface. Today, we're diving deep, not just into water, but into history itself. We'll explore 25 of the most astonishing underwater historical sites ever discovered, places that defy explanation and ignite the imagination. From the eerie Yonaguni Monument off Japan's coast, with its mysterious staircases and pyramids, to the sunken city of Pavlopetri in Greece, older than the legends of Homer, these locations challenge what we know about human achievement. Some were lost to natural disasters, others to war or simply the passage of time, but all of them share one thing: they're waiting to tell their stories. So take a breath and let's plunge into the depths together. The ocean's greatest mysteries are about to surface. Off the coast of modern-day Gujarat, India, lies a discovery that blurs the line between myth and history: the sunken city of Dwarka. According to ancient Hindu texts, this was once a magnificent kingdom, the dwelling place of Lord Krishna himself, said to have vanished beneath the waves when he departed the earth. For centuries, scholars dismissed Dwarka as pure legend, until marine archaeologists began uncovering its remains. Just a few meters below the Arabian Sea, they found massive stone walls, intricate carvings, and artifacts like pottery and anchors, all pointing to a thriving port city that dates back at least 9,000 years. The layout of these ruins eerily matches descriptions in sacred texts like the Mahabharata, which speak of Dwarka's grand palaces and bustling harbors. The real mystery: how much of this city aligns with the mythological accounts? Some researchers argue the submerged structures could be even older than traditionally believed, suggesting a sophisticated civilization existed long before mainstream history acknowledges. Others point to geological evidence of a catastrophic flood around 1500 BCE, which might explain Dwarka's sudden disappearance. Then there are the debates about its purpose. Was it a religious hub, a maritime trade center, or something else entirely? The artifacts recovered, including stone weights used for trade and sculptures of deities, hint at a city deeply connected to both commerce and spirituality. What makes Dwarka especially haunting is how tangible it feels. Unlike the vague whispers of Atlantis, here you can see the remnants of its streets, touch the same stones its ancient inhabitants walked upon. Divers describe swimming through these ruins as stepping into a dream, where fish dart between carved pillars that once held up temples. The sea hasn't erased Dwarka, it's preserved it like a time capsule waiting to be decoded. And with every new artifact brought to the surface, the boundary between myth and history grows thinner. Could this really be the city of Krishna, or is it proof of an advanced society lost to time? The ocean hasn't given up all its secrets yet, but Dwarka is a reminder that some legends might just be memories waiting to resurface. Now, shift your gaze to the waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island, where one of the most heated underwater mysteries of our time lies in wait. Rising from the ocean floor like a submerged castle, the Yonaguni Monument is a colossal rock formation that has sparked debates between geologists, archaeologists, and adventurers for decades. At first glance, its towering terraces, sharp angles, and what appear to be perfect staircases suggest the handiwork of an ancient civilization. Could this be the remnants of a forgotten city, or even Japan's answer to Atlantis? The monument's sheer scale is staggering. Massive platforms stretch over 200 feet long, with walls that drop straight down like the sides of a pyramid. But here's where the controversy begins. Some scientists argue these formations are purely natural, carved by centuries of strong currents and tectonic shifts. Others point to uncanny features, symmetrical pillars, what looks like a carved human face, and even a structure resembling an altar. If human-made, who built it? Theories range from the Jomon people, who inhabited Japan over 10,000 years ago, to more speculative links with the legendary lost continent of Mu, a Pacific counterpart to Atlantis said to have vanished beneath the waves. Divers who have explored Yonaguni describe an eerie, almost otherworldly feeling when swimming through its passages. The way sunlight filters through the water, illuminating the precise right angles and what some claim are tool marks on the stone, makes it hard to dismiss as mere geology. Then there's the location itself. The monument sits near a stretch of ocean known for sudden, violent tsunamis. Could a cataclysm have sunk this structure overnight, preserving it in eerie stillness? Proponents of the man-made theory highlight similar stepped pyramids found in ancient cultures worldwide, from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica, suggesting a shared architectural language lost to time. Skeptics, though, counter that nature is capable of creating astonishing symmetry. Wave erosion can form perfect hexagons after all, like the basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway. What makes Yonaguni so captivating is that it refuses to fit neatly into any category. Even the most hardened skeptics admit there are details that defy easy explanation. Take the Turtle Rock, a flat-topped boulder that looks eerily like a ceremonial platform, or the twin megaliths that appear placed, not fallen. Marine biologists note that coral grows differently on natural versus worked stone, and some sections of Yonaguni show patterns inconsistent with random erosion. The truth may lie somewhere in between, perhaps an ancient natural formation later modified by human hands, or perhaps we're seeing what we want to see, our imaginations filling in the gaps. But one thing's certain, until more evidence surfaces, Yonaguni remains a riddle wrapped in stone and water, a monument to all the histories we've yet to uncover. Whether a masterpiece of nature or a relic of a lost world, it challenges us to rethink what's possible beneath the waves. Beneath the Mediterranean's tranquil surface, just off the coast of Egypt, lies a city so grand it was once thought to be pure myth, Heracleion, also known as Thonis. For centuries, whispers of this ancient port persisted in historical texts, described as a bustling hub where Greek traders mingled with Egyptian priests, where temples gleamed under the sun, and colossal statues of gods and pharaohs stood sentinel over its harbors. But like so many legends, Heracleion vanished from the map, sinking beneath the waves until it became little more than a footnote in old manuscripts. That is, until 2001, when marine archaeologist Frank Gaudio and his team made a discovery that stunned the world. Diving into the murky depths of Baltic Bay, they uncovered a sprawling underwater metropolis frozen in time. Towering statues of the god Hapi, the divine personification of the Nile's floodwaters, lay half-buried in the sand. Stone slabs inscribed in both Greek and Egyptian hinted at the city's role as a critical customs checkpoint where goods and taxes flowed between two great civilizations. Gold coins, delicate jewelry, and even an ancient ship's anchor emerged from the sediment, each artifact whispering secrets about daily life in this lost world. But the most breathtaking find, the ruins of a massive temple dedicated to Amun-Jereb, the supreme god of Heracleion, its walls still adorned with hieroglyphs proclaiming the city's sacred significance. What makes Heracleion's story so gripping isn't just its treasures, it's the mystery of its demise. For over 1,000 years, this city thrived as Egypt's gateway to the Mediterranean, a place where cultures and wealth converged. Then, around the 8th century, it sank. Scientists now believe a perfect storm of disasters sealed its fate. Rising sea levels, combined with unstable sediment and a series of earthquakes, may have caused the ground beneath Heracleion to liquefy, swallowing buildings whole. The very waters that brought it prosperity became its tomb, yet Heracleion's legacy refuses to fade. As divers continue to explore its ruins, they're piecing together a portrait of a city far ahead of its time, a cosmopolitan melting pot where Greek merchants bartered beside Egyptian scribes, where religion and trade intertwined. The discovery of ceremonial barges and ritual artifacts suggests grand processions once filled its canals, echoing with chants and the clink of offerings. And then there are the smaller, intimate finds: a child's toy, a preserved wooden hairpin, a broken wine amphora remind us that this wasn't just a wealthy trade hub but a home. The question lingers: how many more secrets does Heracleion hold? With only 5% of the site excavated, the city is like a puzzle missing most of its pieces. Could there be undiscovered royal quarters hidden beneath the bay? Lost texts that rewrite our understanding of Greco-Egyptian relations? Every dive brings new revelations, and with them a tantalizing thought that somewhere in these silent ruins the past is waiting to speak. Off the southern coast of Greece, where the Laconian Gulf meets the Aegean Sea, lies a time capsule of urban life older than the pyramids of Giza. Pavlopetri. This submerged city, dating back 5,000 years, isn't just the oldest underwater archaeological site ever discovered. It's a perfectly preserved snapshot of Bronze Age civilization. Unlike other ruins fragmented by time, Pavlopetri's streets still follow their original grid. Its buildings cling to their foundations, and even the faint outlines of courtyards and tombs remain visible beneath the shallow turquoise waters. It's as if the city was frozen mid-breath, its daily life interrupted in an instant. What makes Pavlopetri extraordinary isn't just its age, but its startling completeness. Archaeologists mapping the site have identified homes, workshops, religious spaces, and a complex water management system, evidence of a society far more advanced than previously imagined for its era. Pottery fragments recovered from the seabed reveal intricate designs, some showing trade links with distant cultures like Minoan Crete, while stone tools suggest a thriving local economy. But the most haunting discoveries are the personal ones: a child's ceramic cup, a loom weight for weaving cloth, a storage jar still bearing the fingerprints of its maker. These artifacts don't just tell us how people lived, they whisper who they were. The mystery of Pavlopetri's fate is as compelling as its preservation. Unlike cities lost to war or neglect, this one seems to have met a sudden, violent end. Geological studies point to a series of catastrophic earthquakes around 1000 BCE, which could have triggered landslides or tsunamis, dragging the entire settlement beneath the waves in a single calamitous event. Others argue rising sea levels, a slow but relentless force, eroded the coastline over centuries, swallowing Pavlopetri piece by piece. There's even a tantalizing theory linking its downfall to the volcanic eruption on Thera, the same cataclysm that may have inspired the Atlantis legend. Whatever the cause, the result is a ghost city suspended between two worlds, its empty streets now home only to darting fish and shifting sands. Diving into Pavlopetri today feels like trespassing in a dream. Sunlight filters through the water, illuminating walls that haven't felt the air in millennia. In one area, the remains of a possible palace or temple hint at a hierarchical society, while nearby, the simpler structures of artisans and fishermen speak to the city's social diversity. Maritime archaeologists have even identified what might be the world's oldest surviving shipyard, with cut stone docks that could have sheltered trading vessels from across the Mediterranean. Yet for all we've uncovered, Pavlopetri guards its secrets fiercely. No written records have been found, leaving its original name and the language of its people unknown. Were they part of a forgotten kingdom, a precursor to the Mycenaeans? Every artifact raises new questions, and with much of the site still unexcavated, the full story waits beneath the sand. What's certain is this: 5,000 years ago, real people walked these streets, loved, labored, and dreamed here until the sea claimed their world and kept it safe for us to rediscover. Stretching across the shallow turquoise waters near North Bimini Island, the so-called Bimini Road is one of the ocean's most hotly debated mysteries. At first glance, it looks uncannily man-made, a half-mile-long pathway of massive, rectangular limestone blocks, some weighing several tons, arranged in a near-perfect straight line. The moment it was discovered in 1968, speculation exploded. Could this be a remnant of Atlantis, the legendary lost civilization, or perhaps an ancient harbor built by an advanced seafaring culture long forgotten? The stones, some stacked neatly like paving slabs, others lying in deliberate geometric patterns, seem too orderly to be random nature. But here's where the story splits into two very different paths. Mainstream geologists argue the Bimini Road is a classic example of beach rock, a natural formation where fragments of shell and sand cement together over centuries, fracturing into blocky shapes due to tidal forces and erosion. They point to similar formations worldwide, like Australia's Giant's Causeway or the Turtle Stones of Malta, where nature mimics human handiwork with eerie precision. Core samples taken from the stones show no tool marks or signs of quarrying, just the jagged edges typical of fractured rock. Even the road's straight lines, they say, can be explained by coastal currents that align debris over time. But fringe researchers aren't convinced. They highlight anomalies, blocks that appear precisely fitted, corners worn at suspiciously uniform angles, and even what some claim are pillars or mooring posts buried nearby. The most controversial claim, that the stones are composed of a rare limestone not native to the Bahamas, suggesting they were transported there by human hands. Some alternative historians link the site to the Edgar Cayce prophecies, the famous psychic who predicted in the 1930s that a portion of the temples of Atlantis would rise near Bimini in the late 20th century. For believers, the road is evidence of an advanced pre-flood civilization, its ruins scattered across the globe. The cultural impact of Bimini Road is just as fascinating as its geology. It's become a pilgrimage site for New Age seekers, amateur archaeologists, and conspiracy theorists, all drawn by the allure of a tangible connection to Atlantis. Documentaries and books have amplified its mystique, often glossing over scientific analysis in favor of sensational narratives, yet the truth may lie somewhere in between. Even skeptics admit the formation is unusual. Its scale and symmetry push the boundaries of natural processes. Could it be a rare geological quirk, or is there a sliver of human history hidden beneath the waves? Diving at Bimini today offers no easy answers. The stones loom beneath the surface, their edges softened by centuries of waves, their origins still whispered in debates. Whether a freak of nature or a relic of something grander, the road's real power lies in the questions it forces us to ask. How do we distinguish human history from geological chance? And if Atlantis is just a myth, why do we keep finding places that make us wonder? The ocean, as always, keeps its secrets close. Picture a city so infamous for sin that preachers called it the doorway to hell. A place where pirates and prostitutes ruled the streets, where gold flowed as freely as rum, and where the air was thick with the sounds of drunken brawls and clinking treasure. This was Port Royal, Jamaica, in the late 17th century, a lawless pirate kingdom that became the wealthiest and most wicked city in the New World. Then, in a single cataclysmic moment on June 7, 1692, The earth opened up, and 2/3 of this hedonistic paradise vanished beneath the waves, as if divine judgment had finally come calling. Today, the sunken remains of Port Royal offer a hauntingly preserved window into the wild, reckless excess of the golden age of piracy. Divers exploring the site have found streets lined with toppled brick buildings, their walls still standing, their cellars filled with centuries-old bottles of wine and rum, some still sealed, as if waiting for a long-dead pirate to claim them. The soggy ruins have yielded everything from ornate pewter plates to gold coins, pistols, and even a pocket watch frozen at exactly 11:43, the moment the earthquake struck. But the most chilling discoveries are the small, human details: a leather shoe, a broken clay pipe, a child's toy, all abandoned in the panic. The sediment here acts like a time capsule, preserving wood, fabric, and even food in startling condition, giving archaeologists an almost tactile connection to the city's final chaotic hours. Port Royal's reputation as the wickedest city on Earth wasn't just hyperbole. By the 1680s, it was the unofficial capital of piracy, a haven for cutthroats like Henry Morgan, who later became its lieutenant governor when he wasn't busy sacking Spanish cities. Taverns outnumbered churches 10-1, and the harbor bristled with stolen ships. The city was a melting pot of outcasts, escaped slaves, disgraced nobles, and adventurers from every corner of the globe, all drawn by the promise of easy wealth and even easier vice. Contemporary accounts describe public executions next to brothels, streets so filthy they sparked outbreaks of disease, and a culture where violence was as common as a handshake. Yet what makes Port Royal's fate so gripping isn't just its moral downfall, it's the eerie precision of its destruction. The earthquake, likely a massive 9.0 quake, struck at the worst possible moment. The city was built on a sandbar, and when the shaking began, the ground literally turned to liquid beneath its feet. Buildings slid into the sea like sandcastles in a rising tide, and tsunamis finished what the quake started. Survivors told of people swallowed by fissures, of ships flung onto rooftops, and of a churning whirlpool that sucked entire streets into the depths. Within minutes, the Sodom of the Caribbean was gone, and yet the sea didn't erase Port Royal, it pickled it. The same lack of oxygen that preserves shipwrecks has kept the city's organic artifacts intact. Rope, leather, and even seeds have survived, allowing researchers to reconstruct daily life with uncanny accuracy. One dive team uncovered a tavern storeroom stacked with barrels of salted beef, still edible after 3 centuries. Another found a smithy's workshop, its tools laid out as if the blacksmith had just stepped away. Even the skeletons tell stories. One pair, locked in eternal embrace, may have been lovers caught in the collapse. But the biggest mystery isn't how Port Royal fell. It's why we're still so obsessed with its legacy. Perhaps it's the stark morality tale of a city that literally sank under the weight of its sins. Or maybe it's the thrill of touching something so raw, so real, that it shatters the romanticized myths of pirate life. Either way, Port Royal remains a warning etched in saltwater and stone, that no empire, no matter how rich or reckless, is immune to nature's wrath. And somewhere in those silent ruins, the echoes of laughter, clinking glasses, and whispered deals still linger, waiting for the next diver to listen. In the cold, dark waters of the Baltic Sea lies an enigma so baffling it's been called the ocean's most peculiar secret, the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Discovered in 2011 by a team of Swedish divers using sonar, this massive, disc-shaped object rests nearly 300 feet below the surface, its smooth, curved edges and unnatural symmetry sparking instant controversy. Stretching over 200 feet wide with what appears to be stair-like formations and geometric ridges, it looks like something straight out of a sci-fi film. But is it a forgotten piece of human history, a freak of nature, or something even more extraordinary? The moment images of the anomaly surfaced, theories exploded. Some researchers suggested it could be a glacial deposit, a rare but natural formation shaped by Ice Age movements. Others pointed to its uncanny resemblance to the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, fueling whispers of a crashed UFO. But the real twist came when divers reported bizarre electromagnetic interference near the site, equipment malfunctioning, sonar cutting out, and compasses spinning wildly. These claims, though disputed, added a layer of mystery that science struggled to explain. Could this be evidence of advanced technology or simply the result of magnetic minerals in the seabed? Geologists have since weighed in, arguing the anomaly might be a glacial erratic, a boulder dragged and sculpted by ancient ice sheets. They note similar, though smaller, formations exist elsewhere in the Baltic. Yet skeptics of this theory highlight the object's precise angles and what appear to be straight lines, features rarely seen in natural rock. Then there's the pillar extending from its base, described by divers as resembling a support structure, as if the object was once part of something larger. Marine archaeologists have even floated the idea of a submerged Mesolithic monument, suggesting early humans might have built on land now flooded by rising seas. But the anomaly's most enduring allure lies in what we still don't know. Expeditions to the site have been hampered by its depth and the Baltic's notoriously poor visibility, leaving key questions unanswered. Why does the object's composition include metals like manganese and titanium, substances not typically found together in natural formations? And what of the strange, soot-like residue reported on its surface, which some speculate could be evidence of extreme heat? Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the Baltic Sea anomaly isn't its origin, but the way it exposes our hunger for mystery. In an age where satellites map every inch of the planet, here's a puzzle that defies easy categorization. It challenges us to wonder, are we looking at a geological oddity, a lost chapter of human ingenuity, or something beyond our current understanding? The sea, as always, refuses to give up its secrets without a fight. Until someone uncovers definitive proof, the anomaly remains a Rorschach test in the depths, each observer seeing what they want to see, and the truth lying just out of reach. Deep in the Caribbean, where sunlight barely penetrates the crushing darkness 2,000 feet below the surface, sonar images have revealed something that shouldn't be there: a series of staggering geometric formations off the coast of Cuba. Spread across an area larger than a modern city, these smooth, angular structures resemble pyramids, their precise lines and symmetry defying the randomness of nature. Discovered in 2001 by a team mapping the ocean floor, the formations immediately ignited debate. Could these be remnants of an ancient civilization, one that thrived when sea levels were dramatically lower, or are we staring at the ocean's ability to play tricks on our imagination? The scale is staggering. The largest structure measures roughly 1,800 feet across, bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, with what appear to be smaller, aligned satellite pyramids nearby. Their depth places them well beyond the reach of recreational divers, preserved in near-perfect isolation, but it's their potential age that sends shivers down the spine. Geologists studying the surrounding terrain suggest these formations could date back at least 10,000 years, long before the rise of ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. That timeline aligns with the end of the last ice age, when sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower, exposing vast stretches of land now submerged. Proponents of the man-made theory argue these could be the ruins of a coastal metropolis, swallowed by rising waters as glaciers melted. Skeptics, however, aren't convinced. They point out that nature can produce remarkably geometric shapes underwater. Volcanic activity, tectonic shifts, or even coral growth patterns might explain the formations. Without physical samples or manned explorations at that depth, definitive proof remains elusive. Mainstream archaeologists caution against jumping to conclusions, noting that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Yet even the most hardened critics admit the formations are unusual. The way the pyramids align with cardinal directions, the presence of what look like paved pathways between them, these details nag at the edges of simple geological explanations. Then there's the cultural context. Indigenous legends across the Caribbean speak of catastrophic floods, of ancestral homelands lost beneath the waves. Could these structures be the physical echo of those oral histories? Some researchers draw parallels to the Bimini Road or Yonaguni, other underwater sites that blur the line between natural and human-made. The Cuban government, intrigued but cautious, has kept the site largely off-limits, citing the logistical challenges and political sensitivities of deep-sea exploration. What makes Cuba's underwater pyramids so tantalizing isn't just their mystery, it's the questions they force us to confront. If human hands shaped these stones, who were these builders? What catastrophic event consigned their work to the abyss? And most haunting of all, how many more of these lost cities might be lurking in the uncharted darkness, waiting for technology or curiosity to bring them back into the light? Until then, the pyramids remain a silent enigma, daring us to dive deeper, both into the ocean and into the untold chapters of our past. Beneath the shimmering waters of Alexandria's eastern harbor, where the Mediterranean laps gently against Egypt's coast, lies a royal tragedy frozen in time, the Sunken Palace of Cleopatra. Once the heart of Ptolemaic splendor, a place where gold gleamed under torchlight and political alliances were sealed over lavish feasts, this underwater ruin is now a silent testament to nature's power. Imagine walking through halls that once echoed with the footsteps of history's most famous queen, past towering statues of gods now half buried in sand, their faces worn smooth by centuries of tides. This isn't just archaeology, it's a time machine to an era when Alexandria was the epicenter of the ancient world. The discovery of Cleopatra's submerged palace began in earnest in the 1990s, when marine archaeologists led by Frank Gaudio plunged into the harbor's murky depths. What they found was staggering: colossal granite sphinxes, their eyes still watchful, towering columns inscribed with hieroglyphs, and a labyrinth of foundations that once supported marble courtyards and opulent reception halls. Among the most poignant finds were delicate gold coins bearing Cleopatra's profile, their details so sharp they might have been minted yesterday. These weren't just artifacts, they were fragments of a queen's legacy, scattered like puzzle pieces across the seabed. The palace's layout, painstakingly mapped over decades, reveals a complex fit for a ruler who shaped history. Here stood the royal quarters, there the temple of Isis where Cleopatra styled herself as the goddess incarnate, and just beyond, the private docks where she may have secretly met Mark Antony. But how did such grandeur end up beneath the waves? The answer lies in the same forces that built Alexandria's legend: earthquakes. The city sits atop a tectonic time bomb where the African and Arabian plates grind against each other. Sometime between the 4th and 8th centuries, a series of violent quakes, some as powerful as 8.0 in magnitude, sent entire sections of the coastline sliding into the sea. The palace, already weakened by tsunamis and rising waters, collapsed in a cacophony of splintering stone. Unlike Pompeii, preserved in ash, Alexandria's ruins were swallowed whole, their treasures left in eerie suspension. Diving here today is like stepping into a ghostly mirror of the past. Sunlight filters through the water, illuminating a sphinx's smile or the curve of a fallen column carved with lotus blossoms. In one corner, archaeologists uncovered a massive stone block that may have been part of Cleopatra's mausoleum, where she and Antony were said to have taken their lives. Nearby, a cluster of ceramic amphorae hints at the palace's bustling kitchens, where wine from Greece and spices from India once stocked the shelves. Even the harbor's sediment tells a story. Layers of shipwrecks and debris paint a picture of a city that refused to vanish without a fight. Yet the real magic of Cleopatra's palace isn't just in its stones, but in the mysteries that linger. Why were so many statues found deliberately toppled, their heads carefully removed? Was this the work of early Christians purging pagan symbols, or something more personal, an act of vengeance against the Queen's memory? And what of the rumored Library of Alexandria Annex, said to have held duplicates of the Great Library scrolls? No such cache has been found, but the possibility tantalizes historians. Every excavation season brings new clues, and with them a haunting thought that somewhere in this watery ruin, Cleopatra's final secrets still wait, buried just out of reach. In the quiet waters of the St. Lawrence River, where Canada's border meets the United States, a cluster of ghost towns lies hidden beneath the surface, deliberately drowned not by disaster but by progress. This is the story of Ontario's lost villages, a dozen communities sacrificed in 1958 to create the St. Lawrence Seaway, a mega engineering project that promised economic prosperity at a heartbreaking cost. Towns like Altesville, Farrens Point, and Moulinet weren't just evacuated. They were erased, their streets flooded, their buildings left to crumble under the waves. Today, these underwater ruins offer a haunting glimpse into a chapter of history where ambition and displacement collided. Divers exploring the site describe an eerie time capsule frozen in 1950s Canada. Beneath the rippling surface, sidewalks stretch into nothingness, their edges blurred by silt. The skeletal remains of houses stand like specters, their wooden frames softened by decades of water. But the most poignant sight is the steeple of Altesville's Presbyterian Church, its tip still visible at low tide, a silent sentinel marking where a community once gathered. Nearby, rusted cars and farm equipment litter the riverbed, abandoned in the rush to relocate. These weren't just buildings, they were homes where generations had lived, loved, and built their lives until the government's order sent 1,500 families packing with only a year's notice. The decision to flood the villages was framed as a necessary sacrifice. The seaway would transform the region, linking the Great Lakes to the Atlantic and fueling trade between continents. Engineers argued the drowned lands were the price of progress, a small loss for national gain. But for residents, it was a betrayal. Many were descendants of loyalists who'd settled here after the American Revolution, their roots stretching back 2 centuries. Some refused to leave until the waters literally lapped at their doorsteps, watching as bulldozers razed neighboring homes to prevent navigation hazards. The emotional toll was staggering. Families scattered, graves exhumed and relocated, and an entire way of life submerged beneath 40 feet of water. Now, 6 decades later, the lost villages have found an unexpected second life as an underwater museum. Dive tours guide visitors through the skeletal streets, pointing out the foundations of shops and schools where children once played. On calm days, sunlight penetrates the depths, illuminating fragments of china, rusted bicycles, and even a forgotten piano lying on its side, its keys forever stilled. The river's cold embrace has preserved these artifacts with eerie clarity, turning them into relics of a world that vanished overnight. Above water, a memorial park on the new shoreline displays salvaged tombstones and a reconstructed blacksmith shop, a bittersweet tribute to what was lost. What makes these villages so haunting isn't just their physical remains, it's the lingering question of whether the trade-off was worth it. The seaway did bring jobs and commerce, but at what cost to heritage and human connection? Local historians note that some displaced families never fully recovered, their sense of place irreparably broken. Yet there's also resilience here. Descendants still gather for annual reunions, sharing stories of the old world beneath the waves. The lost villages serve as a powerful reminder that progress isn't just about steel and concrete, it's about the lives reshaped in its wake. And as divers glide over those silent streets, they're not just exploring ruins, they're touching the echoes of 1,000 untold stories waiting in the deep. Off the coast of Tamil Nadu, where the Bay of Bengal crashes against golden shores, lies a mystery carved in stone, the submerged temples of Mahabalipuram. For centuries, locals whispered of the 7 pagodas, a cluster of magnificent shore temples said to have been built by the gods themselves. 6 were believed lost beneath the waves, with only one standing above water as proof of their existence. Then, in December 2004, nature delivered a startling revelation. When the Indian Ocean tsunami receded, it briefly exposed something extraordinary: rows of granite pillars, intricate carvings, and the outlines of what appeared to be ancient shrines, all hidden under the sea for over 1,000 years. The ocean had finally given up one of its best-kept secrets. These aren't just any ruins. The sculptures and structures match the exquisite Pallava dynasty style, a civilization that ruled southern India between the 3rd and 9th centuries, known for transforming rock into poetry. The visible shore temple at Mahabalipuram, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is a masterpiece of this era. Its pyramidal tower adorned with sculptures of Shiva, Vishnu, and celestial dancers frozen in stone. But the tsunami's fleeting glimpse of underwater ruins suggested something even grander: an entire sacred complex swallowed by the sea. Divers later confirmed the presence of at least 2 more temples, their walls carved with lions and elephants, their steps leading to altars now covered in barnacles. The largest structure stretches nearly 70 feet long, its corridors eerily intact, as if waiting for priests to return. What makes Mahabalipuram's story so compelling is the interplay of legend and geology. Ancient Tamil texts speak of a bustling port city with 7 radiant pagodas, so dazzling they angered the gods, who sent a great flood to reclaim 6 as punishment. Modern science offers a less divine but equally dramatic explanation. Studies of the coastline reveal evidence of violent tsunamis around 700 AD, around the same time the Pallava kingdom's influence began to wane. Could a colossal wave have swallowed parts of the city in a single catastrophic event? The underwater ruins show signs of sudden submergence, tools left mid-carving, collapsed walls with no signs of gradual erosion. Even more intriguing are the man-made breakwaters and submerged ruins of what might have been a harbor, suggesting Mahabalipuram was far larger than the surviving land temples imply. Diving here today is like entering a dream. Schools of fish weave between stone reliefs depicting scenes from Hindu epics, their colors long faded but their stories still legible in the worn granite. In one eerie corner, a giant Nandi bull, Shiva's sacred mount, lies toppled on its side, half buried in sand. Nearby, a collapsed gopuram, the towering gateway typical of South Indian temples, hints at the scale of what's still buried. Marine archaeologists have even discovered what appear to be ritual bathing pools and a network of canals, suggesting this wasn't just a religious site but a thriving spiritual hub where pilgrims once flocked. Yet the debate rages on. Are these truly the lost pagodas of legend or remnants of a larger city that simply expanded into the sea? Some researchers argue the underwater structures align with descriptions in medieval traveler accounts, which mention temples so close to the waves their reflections touched the gods. Others caution that the 7 number might be symbolic, a sacred numeral in Hinduism rather than literal. The Pallavas were master architects, known for projects like the monolithic Kailasanatha temple, and it's possible they built multiple complexes along the coast, some claimed by rising sea levels over centuries. Whatever the truth, Mahabalipuram's sunken shrines force us to reconsider history's fluidity. They remind us that coastlines are never static, and civilizations often leave their grandest marks where land and water meet, only for the sea to claim them back. Every monsoon season, the waves shift the sands anew, sometimes revealing another carving, another clue. And so the legend lives not just in stone, but in the restless tides that hide and reveal it generation after generation. High in the Andes, where the air is thin and the sky meets the water in a mirror of blue, Lake Titicaca holds secrets far older than the Inca Empire itself. Beneath its surface, at depths reaching over 100 feet, lie the ruins of a civilization that thrived here long before Spanish chronicles began recording history: a submerged temple complex, stone pathways, and even delicate gold artifacts that glint like trapped sunlight in the murky depths. These aren't just random relics, they're physical echoes of a creation myth still whispered by the local Aymara people, who believe their ancestors emerged from the lake's sacred waters to populate the earth. The most striking discovery came in 2013, when divers uncovered a massive ceremonial site near the lake's northeastern shore. Stretching across an area larger than 2 football fields, the ruins include a sandstone temple with carved animal motifs, terraced platforms resembling agricultural steps, and a collection of ritual offerings, shells, pottery, and thin sheets of hammered gold shaped into feline faces. The precision of the stonework suggests a society with advanced engineering skills, one that predates the Inca by centuries, possibly linked to the mysterious Tiwanaku culture. But how did these structures end up underwater? Geologists point to a dramatic shift in the lake's water levels around 1,000 years ago, likely triggered by earthquakes or climate changes that caused the shoreline to retreat and advance like a slow-motion tide. What makes these ruins extraordinary is how tightly they're woven into living tradition. For the Aymara, Lake Titicaca isn't just a body of water, it's the birthplace of their gods. According to legend, the creator deity Viracocha rose from its depths to bring light to the world, and the submerged temples may be physical evidence of rituals performed in his honor. Even today, local shamans reed boats to the middle of the lake to leave offerings for Pachamama, the Earth Mother. Modern divers describe an uncanny feeling when swimming through the ruins, as if the stones themselves pulse with ancient energy. One team reported finding a stone box filled with sacrificial llama bones, its lid sealed so tightly it had preserved traces of coca leaves inside a sacred offering frozen in time. Yet the lake guards its secrets fiercely. The cold, oxygen-poor water preserves organic materials astonishingly well. Wooden tools, textiles, and even seeds have been found intact, but the altitude and unpredictable currents make exploration perilous. Some researchers suspect deeper sections of the lake may hide even grander structures, perhaps a network of temples connected by sunken roads. Others speculate about the so-called Titicaca monolith, a massive carved stone mentioned in early Spanish accounts but never found. Could it lie buried under layers of sediment, waiting to rewrite what we know about pre-Columbian cultures? The real magic of Lake Titicaca's ruins lies in their duality. They're both archaeological treasure and living spiritual touchstone. Every artifact pulled from the depths seems to validate an oral history passed down through generations. A gold figurine mirrors the description of a god in an Aymara chant. A submerged pathway aligns with legends of a bridge to the underworld. Even the lake's famous floating Euros islands, made of woven reeds, might descend from ancient techniques used by the very builders of these sunken shrines. As scientists and divers continue to explore, one thing becomes clear: this isn't just a submerged city. It's a sacred dialogue between past and present, where every stone has a story and the water remembers what the land has forgotten. Off the coast of modern-day Israel, where the Mediterranean's waves now roll over what was once dry land, lies one of the most haunting time capsules of human history, Atlantis. This Neolithic village, buried beneath the sea for nearly 9,000 years, isn't just a collection of ruins. It's a snapshot of a thriving community frozen mid-breath. Walk through its submerged streets and you'll find stone houses still standing, their walls arranged in orderly lines as if the inhabitants had merely stepped away. Fireplaces remain intact, their ashes long cold, and wooden shelves cling to the remains of what might have stored grain or tools. But the most chilling discoveries aren't the buildings, they're the people. Skeletons lie where they fell, some curled in repose, others locked in a final embrace, their bones whispering secrets of a catastrophe that struck without warning. What makes Atlantis so extraordinary isn't just its preservation. It's the window it offers into a pivotal moment in human history. This was a village on the cusp of change, where hunter-gatherers were transitioning to farming, sowing the seeds of civilization as we know it. Archaeologists have uncovered stone sickles for harvesting wheat, the bones of domesticated cows, and even evidence of what might be the world's oldest known olive grove. But the most groundbreaking find, the skeletons bear traces of tuberculosis, pushing back the earliest known cases of this deadly disease by thousands of years. One woman's remains, found cradling a child, show lesions characteristic of advanced TB, a silent witness to the suffering that plagued these early communities. Then there's the mystery of Atlantis-Yam's demise. Unlike other submerged sites slowly claimed by rising seas, this village's end was sudden and violent. Layers of sand and shell debris suggest a colossal tsunami, possibly triggered by an underwater landslide or volcanic eruption, slammed into the coast with enough force to drown the settlement in minutes. The positioning of the bodies tells a grim story: no orderly burials, no signs of preparation. These people were caught unaware, their lives extinguished in a single catastrophic event. Some researchers even speculate the tsunami might have been part of a larger climatic shift, a prelude to the rising sea levels that would reshape coastlines across the Mediterranean. Yet amid the tragedy, there's also a strange beauty to what's been preserved. A stone well, its walls lined with clay to prevent collapse, still holds fresh water seeping from underground springs, a testament to the ingenuity of these ancient engineers. Nearby, a semicircle of massive stones arranged with deliberate care might have been a ritual site for ceremonies lost to time. And then there are the smaller, intimate finds: a necklace of drilled shells, a flint knife with a carefully carved handle, a clay figurine of a fertility goddess. These aren't just artifacts, they're fragments of daily life, proof that even 9 millennia ago, people loved, worshipped, and innovated. What lingers most about Atlat-Yam is the unanswered questions. Why did these early settlers build so close to the shore, knowing the sea's capricious nature? Were they aware of the tuberculosis ravaging their community? And how did they interpret the coughs and fevers that marked its victims? And what stories might the survivors have carried inland? Tales of a great wave that swallowed their homes. The sea, as always, keeps its secrets close. But with every bone studied, every tool analyzed, we piece together a little more of the puzzle, a reminder that even the deepest past is never truly gone. It's just waiting, silent and patient, for us to listen. Beneath the chilly waves of Lake Michigan, where sunlight fades into a deep blue haze, lies a puzzle that could rewrite the story of early America. In 2007, while mapping the lakebed with sonar, researchers stumbled upon a peculiar arrangement of stones, a near-perfect circle of massive boulders, some weighing over 3,000 pounds, resting under 40 feet of water. But it wasn't just the symmetry that stunned them. One of the rocks bore a carving so unexpected it sent shockwaves through the archaeological community: the crude but unmistakable outline of a mastodon, an Ice Age giant that vanished from North America over 10,000 years ago. The implications are staggering. If genuine, this underwater Stonehenge could be proof of human presence in the Great Lakes region far earlier than previously believed, thousands of years before the Clovis people, long considered the continent's first inhabitants. The site's location, now submerged, would have been dry land during the last ice age, when lake levels were dramatically lower. Proponents argue the stones align with celestial events, suggesting a ceremonial or astronomical purpose. The mastodon carving, with its tusks and sloping forehead, appears to have been pecked into the rock using primitive tools, a technique consistent with other prehistoric petroglyphs. Yet skeptics aren't convinced. They point to the lack of other artifacts: no tools, no human remains, no charcoal from ancient fires. The carving's lines, though evocative, could be natural weathering or even modern graffiti. Some geologists argue the stones might be glacial erratics, dumped into their current positions by retreating ice sheets, with the circle merely a coincidence. Even the mastodon image faces scrutiny. Without organic material to date the carving directly, its age remains speculative. Could it be an elaborate hoax carved by divers in the 20th century and passed off as ancient? The debate hinges on a tantalizing question: what would it mean if this site is real? It would challenge the Clovis first theory, suggesting humans arrived in the Americas much earlier, perhaps by boat along ice-free coastal routes. The mastodon depiction could indicate these people witnessed, or even hunted, these creatures, adding weight to controversial claims of pre-Clovis kill sites elsewhere. The stone's alignment with solstice sunrises, if intentional, would reveal a sophisticated understanding of astronomy millennia before the pyramids. Diving at the site today is like stepping into a detective story. The cold, fresh water preserves the stones with eerie clarity, their surfaces textured by centuries of gentle currents. The mastodon rock looms among them, its grooves darkened by algae, a Rorschach test for the ages. Archaeologists have noted subtle tool marks on nearby boulders, but without conclusive dating methods, the truth remains submerged in uncertainty. Even the local Ojibwe tribes, whose oral histories speak of ancient water panthers and submerged lands, offer no clear answers, only whispers of a deeper past. What makes Lake Michigan's Stonehenge so compelling isn't just the mystery of its origin, but what it reveals about our hunger for discovery. Whether a sacred Ice Age site or an odd quirk of nature, it forces us to confront how little we truly know about the footsteps that came before us. And as long as those stones lie silent beneath the waves, they'll keep daring us to look deeper, to question, to wonder, and to imagine the hands that might have shaped them. Off the sun-drenched coast of Naples, where the Mediterranean glitters like spilled mercury, lies a ruin unlike any other, the sunken city of Baiae. Once the playground of Roman emperors and the epicenter of ancient decadence, this underwater ghost town now slumbers beneath 15 feet of crystal-clear water, its marble columns swaying with the rhythm of the tide. Picture this, a place where Julius Caesar and Nero once held orgiastic feasts, where politicians schemed between dips in thermal baths, and where the elite of Rome came to indulge in every vice imaginable. Today, divers glide through its streets, floating past vibrant mosaics still intact after 2,000 years, their colors undimmed by centuries beneath the sea. Baiae wasn't just a resort, it was a symbol of excess so notorious that poets and senators alike condemned its moral decay. Writers like Seneca mocked its citizens for swimming in wine, while rumors swirled of midnight parties where guests wore nothing but gold dust. The city's thermal springs, believed to have healing properties, instead became a backdrop for scandal. Emperors built villas here with movable floor panels so they could flood dining rooms for impromptu nautical banquets. One patrician was said to have filled an entire pool with perfume for a single evening's entertainment. This was a place where the rules of Rome didn't apply, where the wealthy floated in a bubble of eternal indulgence. But nature had other plans. The same volcanic forces that fed Baiae's luxurious hot springs, part of the restless Campi Flegrei caldera, eventually turned against it. Slowly, relentlessly, the ground began to sink. Earthquakes rattled the city, and seawater seeped into its grand villas. By the 8th century, what hadn't been looted was abandoned to the waves. Yet the sea, in its cruel irony, preserved what time might have destroyed. Dive today, and you'll find a surreal museum of antiquity, a marble nymphaeum with shells still embedded in its walls, a statue of Odysseus forever frozen mid-escape from Polyphemus, even the remains of a brothel with erotic frescoes still clinging to the plaster. The most haunting sight, the Pisonian Villa, named after the aristocrat who conspired against Nero. Its black and white mosaic floors depict mythological scenes so vivid they seem to ripple as fish dart overhead. Nearby, a sunken temple to Mercury still holds its dome, the sunlight filtering through its oculus just as it did when worshippers gathered here 2 millennia ago. Marine archaeologists have even recovered delicate glass bottles, their contents long since dissolved, but their shapes hinting at the perfumes and poisons once traded in Baiae's shadowy alleys. What makes this drowned city so mesmerizing isn't just its opulence, it's the duality of its fate. The volcanic gases that once warmed its baths are the same forces that dragged it under, a reminder that luxury and catastrophe often share the same fault lines. Divers here describe an eerie sensation, as if the water itself carries echoes of laughter and whispered secrets. The mosaics gleam with scenes of gods and monsters, their lessons about hubris now underscored by the silence of the deep. Bai's ruins don't just tell a story of Roman excess. They whisper a warning about civilizations that build too close to the edge, believing their splendor will last forever. In the murky depths of India's Gulf of Cambay, a discovery emerged in 2001 that sent shockwaves through the archaeological world. A sprawling underwater city, its foundations dating back an astonishing 9,500 years. This wasn't just another sunken settlement. If verified, it could rewrite the entire timeline of Indian civilization, pushing back the dawn of urban life in the subcontinent by millennia. The implications are staggering, a sophisticated society thriving while much of the world was still in the Stone Age, its streets and buildings now lying silent under 40 meters of seawater. But from the moment marine archaeologists announced their findings, controversy erupted, splitting experts into warring camps over whether this was a groundbreaking revelation or a case of wishful thinking. The heart of the debate lies in the dating. Researchers using sonar and dredging equipment recovered wood fragments and pottery shards, which preliminary carbon dating placed at around 7,500 BCE, thousands of years older than the Harappan civilization, long considered India's earliest urban culture. The city's layout, as glimpsed through murky sonar images, revealed grid-like streets and what appeared to be a massive granary, suggesting a highly organized society. But skeptics pounced on the methodology. They argued the dredging process could have mixed older, natural debris with later human artifacts, skewing the results. Worse, some of the pottery samples were later identified as naturally eroded rocks, their shapes coincidentally resembling vessels. The Indian government's initial excitement, declaring the site proof of a lost Vedic civilization, only fueled suspicions of nationalistic bias, muddying the waters further. Then there's the geological puzzle. How did a city this ancient end up so deeply submerged? Proponents point to the glacial melt at the end of the last ice age, which caused sea levels to rise dramatically around 10,000 years ago, swallowing coastal settlements worldwide. They cite parallels like Dwarka and Japan's Yonaguni, where similar debates rage over human-made versus natural formations. But critics counter that the Gulf of Cambay's violent tides and frequent earthquakes could easily have scattered stones into deceptively orderly patterns. Even the site's most vocal supporters admit the evidence is frustratingly fragile: artifacts corroded by salt water, structures obscured by centuries of silt, and a political climate that sometimes values symbolism over science. Amid the noise, one question lingers: what if it's real? The Harappans didn't emerge from a vacuum. Perhaps the Gulf of Cambay ruins represent a missing link, a precursor culture that laid the groundwork for later urban brilliance. Local fishermen have long spoken of Kandhar, underwater ruins visible at low tide, their oral histories hinting at a collective memory of lost lands. And while mainstream archaeology remains skeptical, even the harshest critics agree the Gulf deserves deeper study, with stricter methods and cooler heads. For now, the city remains a ghost in the sonar scans, its truth suspended like the sediment swirling around its stones. Whether a lost chapter of human history or a cautionary tale of overinterpretation, it challenges us to keep searching, to stay open to the possibility that the past might be older and stranger than we ever imagined. Deep beneath the glassy surface of Qingdao Lake in China's Zhejiang province, an ancient metropolis sleeps in near-perfect silence. The lost city of Zhelai, known as the Lion City, for the guardian stone lions that once watched over its gates. Unlike other submerged ruins claimed by earthquakes or rising seas, This one was deliberately drowned in 1959, sacrificed to the rising waters of a massive hydroelectric project. What makes Zhelai extraordinary isn't just its tragic fate, but how the water became its unlikely protector. While the modern world above moved on, the lake's cool, mineral-rich depths cradled the city like a museum exhibit, preserving intricate carvings, towering memorial arches, and even wooden beams with their original paint intact. Today, divers who slip beneath the surface describe a scene straight out of a dream. A labyrinth of whitewashed walls, dragon-adorned temples, and cobbled streets frozen in the Ming and Qing dynasties, untouched by time or vandalism. The city's architecture is a love letter to ancient Chinese craftsmanship. Intricately carved stone archways, some standing over 20 feet tall, still bear inscriptions praising scholars and officials who walked these streets 6 centuries ago. Delicate latticework screens, their patterns as precise as the day they were chiseled, filter shafts of sunlight that pierce the emerald water. One particularly haunting discovery was a series of ancestral shrines, their altars still aligned as if waiting for offerings, the names of long-dead families etched into stone tablets. But the real marvel is how crisp the details remain, mythical phoenixes with feathers so finely rendered they seem ready to take flight, stone lions with manes coiled like waves, even the faint traces of vermilion paint clinging to wooden pillars. The lake's gentle currents, low oxygen levels, and lack of biological growth have conspired to create a time capsule no terrestrial ruin could match. Yet Zhelai's story is as much about loss as preservation. Before the floodgates closed, nearly 300,000 people were displaced with little warning. Farmers leaving ancestral homes, artisans abandoning workshops passed down through generations. The Chinese government, prioritizing electricity for a growing nation, documented the city with rudimentary sketches and photographs, but no comprehensive excavation was done. Families watched as the waters rose over rooftops, swallowing not just buildings but centuries of history. Ironically, this haste saved the city from modern restoration projects that often strip ancient sites of authenticity. What remains is pure, unaltered history, a snapshot of imperial China preserved in liquid amber. Diving here is like drifting through a ghostly ink painting. Schools of silver fish dart between scholars' courtyards where officials once composed poetry, their reflections flickering over walls inscribed with classical couplets. In the quieter corners, the silt has settled into drifts, revealing glimpses of daily life, a ceramic teacup overturned near a hearth, a rusted lock still hanging from a merchant's strongbox. The most poignant sight might be the city's 5 towering gates, their stone lions now green with algae but still standing sentry, their snarling mouths forever open in silent roars. Marine archaeologists have mapped only a fraction of the site, estimating that over 60% of the original structures remain unexplored, their secrets locked in the lake's embrace. What lingers most about Zhelai is the duality of its legacy, a place both mourned and miraculously saved. The same waters that erased it from the land also shielded it from pollution, war, and the wear of centuries. As diving expeditions slowly uncover more of its wonders, the city challenges us to reconsider what progress truly means. Was it a necessary sacrifice or a cultural tragedy? The answer, like the Lion City itself, lies just beneath the surface, waiting for the light to reach it. Deeper than any cenote and darker than midnight in the Yucatan jungle, the flooded caves of Sac Acton are a submerged labyrinth stretching over 215 miles, the longest underground river system on Earth. This isn't just a dive site, it's a liquid time capsule preserving the spiritual heartbeat of the ancient Maya. Imagine squeezing through tunnels barely wider than your shoulders, your headlamp cutting through crystal-clear water to reveal a grinning human skull resting on a ledge, its empty eye socket staring back at you. Nearby, a ceramic bowl painted with the face of the rain god Chok sits precisely where a priest left it 1,300 years ago, part of an offering to gods who ruled the underworld. These aren't random artifacts, they're sacred remnants of a belief system that saw caves as portals to Xibalba, the realm of the dead. The Maya didn't just visit these caves, they risked their lives to reach their deepest chambers. Divers have found evidence of ancient torch marks on ceilings, where smoke stains reveal the paths they took through the pitch-black passages. Some tunnels contain carefully arranged piles of stones, early navigation markers or perhaps ritual boundaries. Then there are the human remains, often clustered in areas where the cave suddenly opens into vast chambers. One particularly chilling discovery was the Hoyo Negro pit, where the skeleton of a teenage girl nicknamed Naya lay alongside extinct Ice Age animals. Her bones, dated to 12,000 years ago, suggest these caves were sacred long before the Maya rose to power, hinting at millennia of continuous worship. What makes Sac-Acton so extraordinary is how vividly it mirrors Maya cosmology. Their creation myth, the Popol Vuh, describes heroic twins descending into the underworld through caves, facing trials to resurrect their father. Archaeologists suspect the cave's most elaborate offerings, jade figurines, spiny oyster shells from distant coasts, even a carved wooden throne, were left during reenactments of this story. Some chambers show evidence of fire rituals where priests burned copal incense to communicate with spirits. The water itself held meaning. The Maya believed cenotes were mouths of chalk, capable of swallowing sacrifices or bestowing life-giving rain. Modern divers report an almost electric stillness in these spaces, as if the water remembers the chants and pleas once whispered into its depths. Yet for all we've uncovered, most of Sac-Acton remains unexplored. Passages branch like veins beneath the jungle, some so narrow they require rebreathers to navigate without disturbing the silt. In 2018, divers mapping the system broke through into a previously unknown chamber and found an untouched altar with 9 obsidian blades, a sacred number representing the layers of Xibalba. Nearby, footprints pressed into the cave's soft floor over 1,000 years ago had fossilized, capturing the moment someone knelt to leave an offering. These discoveries aren't just adding to history, they're rewriting it. The sheer volume of artifacts suggests these caves were far more than occasional pilgrimage sites. They may have been the spiritual engine of the Maya world, a place where the boundary between earth and underworld truly thinned. Diving here today isn't just technical, it's transcendental. As your light glints off a stalactite, you might notice it's not a natural formation at all, but a column of ash from centuries of oil lamps. In one chamber, the remains of a wooden scaffold hint at how priests lowered themselves into the abyss, their faith stronger than their fear. The water, filtered by limestone, is so clear it feels like floating through air, amplifying the eerie sense of trespassing in a realm meant for gods. Every artifact, every bone, every charcoal stroke on the cave walls pulses with the same question. What would the Maya think if they knew their most sacred secrets now drift in the gaze of strangers, their rituals silent but their voices echoing through time in the very waters they once believed held the power of life and death? The caves keep their answers close, yielding just enough to remind us how much we've yet to learn. Off the jagged coast of Antikythera, a tiny Greek island whose name means opposite Kythera, lies a shipwreck that revolutionized our understanding of ancient technology. In 1901, sponge divers battling treacherous currents stumbled upon a scene that seemed ripped from mythology. A Roman-era cargo ship sprawled across the seafloor, its wooden hull long disintegrated, but its treasures gleaming through the sediment like whispers from another age. Among the shattered amphorae and corroded anchors lay something that would stun historians: the Antikythera mechanism, a bronze device so complex it's been called the world's first analog computer. Its gears and dials frozen mid-calculation for over 2,000 years. This wasn't just any shipwreck. The vessel, likely bound for Rome around 60 BCE, carried loot plundered from Greek cities. An opulent trove of life-sized bronze statues, delicate glassware from Alexandria, and gold jewelry so finely crafted it could rival modern pieces. Divers initially hauled up marble limbs and torsos, thinking they'd found corpses petrified by the sea. But the true showstopper was the mechanism, a lump of corroded bronze no bigger than a shoebox that sat ignored for months until a sharp-eyed archaeologist noticed gear teeth peeking through the crust. X-rays later revealed an intricate system of 37 interlocking gears, capable of predicting lunar eclipses, tracking the 4-year Olympic cycle, and modeling the erratic motions of planets, a feat of engineering not matched until the 14th century. The genius of the Antikythera mechanism lies in its precision. Its creator, possibly linked to the school of Archimedes, encoded celestial knowledge into metal, with dials representing the Sun, Moon, and 5 known planets. The front face displayed the Greek zodiac, while hidden gears accounted for anomalies like the Moon's elliptical orbit. This wasn't just a tool, it was a philosophical statement, a miniature cosmos engineered to prove the heavens operated by mathematical law. Modern reconstructions using 3D imaging show gears so finely cut they could calculate the 4-year Callipic cycle with a margin of error less than 1 day per century. Yet the wreck's other treasures are equally mesmerizing. A bronze statue dubbed the Philosopher gazes upward with hollow eyes, his beard still flecked with gold leaf. A pair of intertwined marble horses, perhaps part of a chariot group, suggest the ship carried artworks for a Roman villa. Then there's the eerie Antikythera youth, a 7-foot bronze athlete caught mid-motion, his inlaid eyes once bright with stone or glass. These weren't mere decorations, they were status symbols for Rome's elite, proof of conquest over Greek culture. Even the ship's humble artifacts, like a bone flute and a chess pawn, hint at the lives aboard, musicians entertaining the crew, sailors killing time between ports. What makes this wreck uniquely haunting is how it rewrote history overnight. Before the mechanism's discovery, no one believed ancient civilizations possessed such technical sophistication. The Greeks were thinkers, not engineers, or so we thought. Now, every textbook must grapple with the possibility that this device wasn't unique, just the sole survivor of a lost tradition. Marine archaeologists suspect most of the ship's cargo remains buried under boulders, including a second mechanism mentioned in fragmentary records. Recent dives using exosuits have uncovered a bronze spear too large for any known statue, hinting at a colossal sculpture still hidden in the dark. Diving at Antikythera today is like swimming through a riddle. The mechanism's purpose: was it a teaching tool, a navigational aid, or a wealthy man's toy? The statue's origins: were they war loot or commissioned copies? Even the ship's fate remains unclear. Did a sudden storm smash it against the rocks, or did the weight of its own treasure drag it under? The answers may lie deeper still, where the sea guards its secrets in a cradle of broken marble and silent gears. One thing's certain: this wreck isn't just a collection of artifacts. It's a mirror held up to antiquity, showing us a past far more brilliant and more mysterious than we ever imagined. Beneath the shimmering, mineral-rich waters of Turkey's Lake Van, the largest soda lake in the world, lies a secret older than the Roman Empire, the sunken fortress of an ancient kingdom lost to time. Discovered in 2017 by a team of archaeologists and divers, this sprawling 3,000-year-old ruin isn't just another forgotten citadel. Its walls, some stretching over 15 feet high, ripple with carvings of gods and warriors from the Eurasian civilization, a Bronze Age powerhouse that rivaled Assyria in its heyday. But what makes these ruins extraordinary isn't just their age. It's how they came to be submerged, preserved in the lake's alkaline embrace like a relic suspended in liquid amber. The fortress stands as a testament to the Eurasians' engineering prowess. Built from massive basalt blocks during the 9th century BCE, its foundations were originally constructed on dry land, part of a network of strongholds guarding the kingdom's frontiers. But Lake Van had other plans. Over centuries, volcanic activity and tectonic shifts caused water levels to creep upward, swallowing the castle inch by inch until only its tallest towers remained above the waves. By the time medieval travelers passed through, locals spoke of a phantom city glimpsed beneath the lake's surface on calm days, a myth dismissed as fable until modern divers proved it true. The fortress's walls, though softened by time, still bear inscriptions praising the god Haldi, while submerged staircases hint at a labyrinth of chambers yet to be explored. But the ruins aren't the only mystery lurking in Lake Van's depths. Nearby, giant stalagmites rise from the lakebed like petrified trees, some towering over 40 feet tall. These limestone monoliths formed in air-filled caves during ancient periods of lower water levels, their intricate layers recording millennia of climatic shifts like geological diaries. Now submerged, they've become cathedrals for schools of pearl mullet, their surfaces encrusted with underwater life. Local legends insist these formations aren't natural at all. They're the fossilized remains of a giant serpent, the lake's own version of the Loch Ness monster. Fishermen whisper of shadowy shapes gliding through the deep, a creature they call Van Gerlu Canavari, said to surface during storms or lunar eclipses. Scientists dismiss these tales as misidentified sturgeon or wave patterns, but the stories persist, blurring the line between history and folklore. Diving here is like entering a dream where time collapses. One moment you're brushing silt from a 3,000-year-old cuneiform tablet. The next you're hovering beside a stalagmite that began forming when woolly mammoths still roamed Eurasia. The lake's high salinity and lack of oxygen have acted as a preservative, leaving wood supports and even textile fragments astonishingly intact. Archaeologists have uncovered arrowheads still lodged in fortress walls, evidence of a final, desperate siege, and ceramic jars that once held grain for Eurasian soldiers. Meanwhile, sonar scans hint at even grander structures hidden under layers of sediment, possibly entire neighborhoods of a sunken city waiting to be mapped. What lingers most about Lake Van's secrets is how they force us to reconsider what we call lost. The Eurasians themselves faded into obscurity, their language forgotten until 19th century scholars cracked their script. Their fortress, meant to stand for eternity, now exists in a realm between earth and water, neither fully ruined nor entirely erased. And perhaps that's the real magic, not just the stones and stalagmites, but the way they remind us that history is never truly gone. It simply changes form, waiting for the right moment to resurface, whether through the hands of a diver or the whispers of a legend passed down through generations. The lake keeps its secrets close, but every now and then, it lets us glimpse the world beneath the waves, a world where empires sleep, monsters might still swim, and the past is always closer than it seems. Beneath the churning grey waves of the North Sea, where oil rigs now stand and cargo ships trace their routes, lies a lost world older than the pyramids, a Mesolithic paradise called Doggerland. Imagine a vast, low-lying landscape of forests, marshes, and rolling hills, stretching from Britain to Denmark, teeming with aurochs, red deer, and nomadic tribes who lived off the land. This wasn't just a land bridge, it was home, a thriving ecosystem swallowed by rising seas around 6,500 BCE. Today, fishermen trawling these waters occasionally haul up more than just cod. They dredge spear points carved from reindeer antler, mammoth bones polished by ancient rivers, and even the occasional human artifact, like a barbed harpoon point still sharp enough to pierce hide. These finds are whispers from a drowned world, fragments of a story written in silt and stone. What makes Doggerland so mesmerizing isn't just its scale, it's how vividly we can reconstruct it. Sediment cores reveal pollen from oak and hazel forests, while sonar maps outline submerged river valleys like ghostly veins. In 2019, a trawler off the Dutch coast hauled up a 20,000-year-old flint tool, its edges napped with precision by hands that once tracked herds across this vanished terrain. Nearby, on the seabed, archaeologists have found the preserved footprints of a child and adult. pressed into mud 13,000 years ago and later sealed by peat, a fleeting moment frozen in time. The bones of animals tell their own story. Wolf skulls with cut marks from skinning, beaver teeth worn from gnawing Doggerland's timber, and the massive tusks of woolly mammoths, some showing signs of human butchering. This was no barren wasteland, but an Eden-like refuge during the Ice Age's thaw, where clans followed migrating herds and fished in rivers now buried under 50 meters of seawater. The drowning of Doggerland wasn't a single catastrophe, but a slow-motion tragedy spanning generations. As glaciers melted at the end of the last ice age, sea levels rose at a rate of roughly 2 centimeters per year, fast enough to notice within a lifetime. Families who once camped by freshwater springs would have watched saltwater creep into their drinking pits, seen familiar hunting grounds vanish beneath tidal creeks. The final blow likely came around 6,200 BCE, when a massive underwater landslide off Norway triggered a tsunami that surged across Doggerland's remaining islands, scattering communities and drowning the last refuges. Some researchers believe survivors carried their Doggerland memories to Britain and Scandinavia, their stories evolving into flood myths like Atlantis or Noah's Ark. Yet the sea didn't erase everything. In 2015, divers exploring the Brown Bank, a shallow ridge between the UK and the Netherlands, stumbled upon an ancient forest floor preserved in peat. The stumps of oak and yew trees still stood upright, their roots gripping the seabed as if refusing to let go. Between them lay antler tools, fish traps woven from willow, and a deer skull pierced by a projectile point, a missed hunt from millennia ago. These aren't just relics, they're puzzle pieces for a lost way of life. By studying the isotopes in human bones dredged from fishing nets, scientists can tell these people ate a diet rich in seafood and wild boar, while genetic traces in sediment hint at campfires where stories were shared under stars we'll never see from those shores again. What lingers most about Doggerland is the intimacy of its loss. This wasn't the fall of a grand civilization, but the quiet vanishing of small bands who left no monuments, only scattered tools and hearths now resting in the dark. Modern seismic surveys reveal something haunting. Beneath layers of sand and shell, the old land still remembers its shape. River channels curve where they once did. Hills rise in sonar profiles like sleeping giants, and somewhere down there, perhaps, lies the first fishing village ever flooded by climate change. Doggerland challenges us to remember that the maps we trust are temporary, that the ground beneath our feet is never as solid as it seems, and when North Sea storms churn the waters, stirring up peat and flint from below, it's as if the land itself is trying to speak, whispering across 8,000 years of silence. Rising from the turquoise waters of Micronesia like a mirage of stone, Nan Madol is a place that defies belief. A city built not on solid ground, but atop a coral reef. Its 92 artificial islands connected by a network of canals so intricate they've earned it the nickname, the Venice of the Pacific. But this was no romantic getaway. The basalt megaliths that form its foundations, some weighing up to 50 tons, were dragged across open ocean without the use of wheels or pulleys, stacked with such precision that not even a blade of grass could slip between them. Who were the builders capable of such a feat? The answer lies with the Sodalor dynasty, a ruling class so shrouded in mystery that local legend claims they wielded black magic to command the stones into place. Walking through Nan Madol's ruins today, you're stepping into the heart of a theocratic empire that dominated Pohnpei Island from around 1200 to 1600 AD. The Sodalors didn't just build a city, they engineered a statement of absolute power. The royal quarters on Madol Pao, the upper town, perch atop walls 15 feet thick, while the adjacent mortuary complex, Nan Dawas, holds stone crypts where chiefs were buried alongside sacrificed servants. The surrounding canals served as both moats and highways, allowing rulers to monitor and control every movement in their aquatic kingdom. But what chills the spine isn't just the scale of construction, it's the unanswered question of how. The basalt blocks, quarried from volcanic plugs miles away, would have required thousands of laborers to transport by raft or floating them with bamboo pontoons, a logistical nightmare in an era without metal tools. Modern experiments have failed to replicate the feat, leaving archaeologists to wonder if the Sodalors possessed lost engineering knowledge or, as islanders whisper, supernatural aid. The dynasty's downfall is as cryptic as its rise. Oral histories tell of a tyrannical ruler, Isoclecal, whose cruelty sparked rebellion. But digs at Nan Madol reveal a darker twist. Layers of charcoal and shattered pottery suggest the city didn't fade, it burned. The canals, once shimmering with the reflection of towering megaliths, became tombs for a way of life. Today, the ruins pulse with eerie energy. Divers report unnatural cold spots in the water, while locals refuse to visit after dark, claiming the stones moan with the ghosts of sacrificed workers. Even scientists can't dismiss all the mysteries, like the underwater tunnels some swear connect the islands, or the coral-encrusted stones carved with symbols matching no known Pacific script. Nan Madol's greatest lesson might be its warning. The Sodalors built their empire on the backs of forced labor, their temples soaring as their people starved. When the reckoning came, the very canals that fortified them became escape routes for their enemies. Now, as rising tides nibble at the ruins, the city seems to whisper a timeless truth. No kingdom, no matter how ingeniously constructed, can outlast the weight of its own hubris. The stones remain, but the water always wins. In the quiet waters of Roskilde Fjord, where Denmark's misty mornings cling to the reeds, lies a nautical graveyard with a story of deception and desperation. Here in the 11th century, Vikings deliberately sank 5 of their own ships, not in defeat but as a cunning act of war. These vessels, some massive, others sleek, were scuttled in a narrow channel, their hulls filled with stones, their masts snapped like twigs, all to create an underwater barrier against invading fleets. Imagine the scene: warriors heaving boulders into holds, the groaning of timber as ships settled into their final resting places, the fjord's surface closing over them like a secret. For nearly 1,000 years, the sea kept that secret until 1962, when dredging operations struck wood instead of mud, unearthing Scandinavia's most astonishing maritime discovery. What emerged from the silt was a time capsule of Viking ingenuity. The 5 ships weren't just random vessels, they were a carefully chosen mix, each serving a distinct purpose in Norse society. The star of the haul was the Skulderlev II, a 90-foot-long warship built from Irish oak, its design so advanced it could carry 80 warriors while slicing through waves at 15 knots, a speed unmatched until the age of clipper ships. Alongside it lay a sturdy Gnaw, a cargo ship capable of crossing the Atlantic, its belly once stuffed with timber, furs, and perhaps even Greenlandic ivory. Together, these wrecks painted a portrait of a society that didn't just ride the waves, it mastered them. The smaller boats, like the 6-meter-long fishing vessel, revealed the everyday life behind the legend, showing Vikings as traders, explorers, and fishermen as much as raiders. Rebuilding these ships became an obsession for modern historians. Using traditional tools and techniques, craftsmen at the Roskilde Viking Ship Museum spent decades recreating the Skulderlev II, dubbed the Sea Stallion from Glendalough. Sailing this replica from Denmark to Ireland in 2007, they proved Viking ships could withstand the North Atlantic's fury, just as the sagas claimed. The Gnaw's reconstruction, the Saga Oseberg, later retraced routes to Newfoundland, demonstrating how Norse settlers might have hauled livestock and timber across treacherous seas. These voyages weren't just historical reenactments, they were revelations. Sailors reported how the ships responded to waves, how their shallow drafts allowed beaching on any sandy shore, and how their symmetrical design meant they could reverse direction without turning, a lifesaver in tight fjords or sudden ambushes. But the real magic lies in the details preserved by Roskilde's brackish waters. Tool marks on the original timbers show adzes swinging in precise arcs, evidence of shipwrights working to a standardized system. The caulking, a mix of animal hair and pine tar, still clung to seams, revealing how Vikings made their ships watertight without a single nail. Even the skeletons of shipworms told a story. Their absence in the Irish oak hinted at a timber trade stretching across Europe, with Vikings sourcing materials like modern builders choosing steel or concrete. The ship's repairs spoke volumes. Two patched hulls from distant ports, foreign wood types hinting at mid-voyage fixes in Scotland or Norway. These weren't disposable vessels, they were cherished tools maintained across generations. Yet the most haunting question remains: who were these Vikings trying to stop? Historians suspect the barricade-targeted King Harald Hardrada of Norway, whose invasion attempts in the 1060s threatened Danish sovereignty. The choice to sink such valuable ships some nearly knew speaks to the desperation of the moment. It's as if the Vikings, those legendary conquerors, were forced to become defenders, trading their greatest assets for time. Today, as you stand in the museum's echoing hall, staring up at the reconstructed ship's serpentine prow posts, the lesson is clear: the sea was never just a highway for these people. It was their moat, their battlefield, and ultimately their archive. And in Roskilde Fjord, the water chose to give back what the warriors sacrificed, not as wreckage, but as proof of a brilliance that outlasted even their darkest hour. Long before skyscrapers pierced the skies of Singapore or rice terraces carved into Bali's hills, an entire continent thrived where only scattered islands now remain. This was Sunderland, a vast subcontinent stretching from Myanmar to Borneo, its river valleys and savannas home to some of humanity's earliest seafarers. Today, all that's visible are the tips of its drowned mountains, Sumatra, Java, and the thousands of smaller islands that form Indonesia and Malaysia. But dive beneath the Java Sea, and the evidence is everywhere: ancient river channels etched into the seabed, stone tools resting in what were once freshwater springs, and the genetic echoes of a migration that shaped the modern world. The story of Sunderland's disappearance is written in mud and magma. During the last ice age, glaciers locked away so much water that sea levels were nearly 400 feet lower, exposing a landmass larger than India. Then, as temperatures rose around 14,000 years ago, the oceans came roaring back. Unlike Doggerland's gradual drowning, Sunderland's fate was punctuated by catastrophe. Sediment cores reveal layers of volcanic ash from super-eruptions like Toba's 74,000 years ago, events that may have bottlenecked human populations. But the final blow came with meltwater pulses around 11,000 BCE, when rising seas severed land bridges at a rate of miles per year, stranding communities on newly formed islands. The oral histories of indigenous Orang Asli peoples still speak of a time when their ancestors could walk to neighboring lands, memories preserved like fossils in folklore. What makes Sunderland extraordinary isn't just its lost geography, but how its flooding shaped human history. Genetic studies of Southeast Asian populations reveal a stunning pattern. The DNA of modern groups like the Malaysian Negrito and Philippine Aita traces back to lineages that weathered the inundations in isolated highland refuges. These weren't passive victims of climate change. They adapted, taking to boats and developing maritime technologies that allowed them to thrive even as their world vanished beneath them. Archaeologists have found shell middens on islands that were suddenly surrounded by ocean, proving people shifted from hunting giant tapirs to harvesting oysters almost overnight. The same waters that erased their homelands became highways, enabling the Austronesian expansion that would eventually populate islands from Madagascar to Easter Island. The most tantalizing clues, however, lie beneath the Sunda Shelf. Sonar surveys have mapped drowned river systems like the North Sunda River, which once rivaled the Mekong in scale. Along its ancient banks, fishermen regularly trawl up tools made from chalcedony and obsidian materials not native to the region, suggesting trade networks spanning pre-flood Sunderland. In 2021, divers off Java's coast discovered a stone structure resembling a megalithic tomb at 130 feet deep, its coral-encrusted slabs arranged with eerie precision. Local legends describe underwater palaces guarded by giant crocodiles, stories that may preserve half-remembered glimpses of submerged settlements. Even the name Sunderland echoes in myth, the Javanese tale of Ratu Kidul, a sea goddess whose kingdom sank beneath the waves, could be a folk memory of coastal cities lost to rising tides. Yet Sunderland's greatest mystery isn't what's been found, it's what remains hidden. The acidic waters of the tropics dissolve bones and wood within centuries, leaving only stone and pottery to mark human presence. But new technologies offer hope. LiDAR scans, which peeled back jungle canopies to reveal Angkor Wat's true scale, are now being adapted for shallow seas, potentially exposing foundations under layers of silt. Meanwhile, geneticists are tracing ghost populations, strands of DNA with no modern counterparts, that might represent entire communities swallowed by the floods. Standing on the shores of Bali today, watching fishing boats bob on turquoise waves, it's humbling to realize you're staring at a graveyard of continents. Those waters hold more than shipwrecks and coral. They cradle the birth of seafaring cultures, the resilience of people who turn catastrophe into opportunity, and the indelible truth that land is never truly permanent. Sunderland may be lost, but its legacy surges through the veins of island communities who still hear the whispers of drowned forests in every monsoon rain. Off the coast of Crete, where the Mediterranean's blue embrace meets golden cliffs, lies a city that didn't just sink, it was pulled under by the very earth beneath it. Aulis, a bustling Roman port, now rests in shallow turquoise waters, its cobbled streets home to parrotfish and octopuses instead of merchants and sailors. This isn't just another sunken ruin. It's a stark reminder that Crete sits atop one of the most volatile geological crossroads on the planet, where African and Eurasian plates collide in a slow-motion battle. Walk through these underwater avenues, and you're treading across a landscape shaped as much by human ambition as by earthquakes and volcanic fury. The ruins of Aulis tell two stories, one of Roman prosperity, the other of nature's indifference. In its heyday, this was a thriving trading hub, its harbor crammed with ships carrying olive oil, wine, and the precious purple dye extracted from murex seashells. The city's sprawling agora, now a sandy clearing between seaweed-cloaked columns, once buzzed with debates and deals. But what makes Aulis uniquely haunting are the ordinary details preserved by the sea. A stone well still lined with the original waterproof mortar, steps worn smooth by centuries of footsteps now swaying with anemones, and the faint etchings of game boards carved into plaza stones where merchants once played while waiting for cargo. Yet Aulis' fate was sealed by its location. Crete isn't just an island, it's a geological front line. The same tectonic forces that thrust its mountains skyward also triggered the cataclysm that doomed the city. Around the 2nd century AD, a series of violent earthquakes likely linked to nearby submarine volcanoes like Santorini caused sections of the coastline to liquefy or drop abruptly. Aulis didn't gradually flood. Parts of it may have vanished overnight, swallowed by tsunamis or sudden subsidence. Modern divers can still see the scars, streets that end in jagged fractures, walls tilted at unnatural angles, and harbor blocks wrenched apart like a puzzle tossed by a giant's hand. What brings Aulis to life, though, are the quirks of its underwater preservation. Unlike ruins claimed by open ocean, here the shallow, sunlit water acts like a magnifying glass on history. In one home's courtyard, a mosaic of Poseidon still gleams with bits of original cobalt and gold glass, his trident aimed defiantly at the waves that claimed his tribute. Nearby, a collapsed Roman bath complex spills its hypocaust tiles across the seabed, the system of underfloor heating now cold for millennia. Even the city's boundaries are marked by eerie sentinels standing columns that once framed grand gates, now festooned with barnacles and swaying strands of Posidonia grass. The true revelation of Aulis isn't just its ruins, it's how it mirrors Crete's ongoing dance with disaster. The island's coastline is littered with the ghosts of other sunken cities, from Aptera to Eleuthera, each a victim of the same geological unrest. Today, scientists monitor the Hellenic Trench just south of Crete, where Africa's plate grinds beneath Europe at a rate of 3 centimeters per year, building strain that could unleash another catastrophic quake. Swimming through Aulis, you're not just exploring the past, you're floating atop a warning. The same forces that erased this city are merely biding their time, a reminder that the Mediterranean's postcard-perfect shores are, geologically speaking, a temporary arrangement. Perhaps that's why local fishermen still speak of Aulis in hushed tones. On still nights, they claim to hear the clink of ghostly amphorae beneath their boats or spot shadows moving through non-existent streets. Whether superstition or subconscious recognition, the stories capture a universal truth. The sea doesn't just hide ruins, it guards memories. And in Crete's case, those memories are written in seismic shudders and the stubborn stones of cities like Aulis, refusing to be forgotten even as the waves whisper that one day they'll have company. From the drowned streets of Port Royal to the ghostly pillars of Pavlopetri, these 25 underwater mysteries share more than just their watery graves. Each one is a testament to the fragile dance between human ambition and nature's indifference, whether swallowed by earthquakes, betrayed by shifting tides, or abandoned to the slow creep of time. Some fell victim to human folly, greed, war, or the reckless pursuit of progress, while others vanished in the blink of a geological eye, leaving behind only questions. What unites them all is the tantalizing gap between what we've uncovered and what still lurks in the dark, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Consider the patterns. Civilizations like Dwarka and Heracleion, once thriving hubs of trade and culture, now reduced to echoes in the silt. Their ruins challenge the stories we've long accepted, blurring the lines between myth and history. Then there are the enigmas of human ingenuity, Yonaguni's geometric precision, the Antikythera mechanism's celestial calculus artifacts so advanced they defy their own timelines. And who could forget the tragedies, Port Royal's vice-drenched streets frozen mid-sin, or the lost villages of Ontario, sacrificed to the cold logic of industry. These aren't just sunken relics, they're cautionary tales, reminders that no empire, no matter how grand, is immune to the tides of change. Yet for every mystery solved, a dozen more remain. The Baltic Sea Anomaly's eerie symmetry, Cuba's submerged pyramids, Lake Michigan's mastodon carvings, each one dares us to reconsider what we know. Could there be older cities than Pavlopetri hiding in uncharted trenches? Might we yet find a second Antikythera, its gears still whispering secrets of the stars? The oceans cover 70% of our planet, and we've mapped less than a fifth of their flaws. Every expedition, every scan of the deep could rewrite history. So here's where we leave you, not with answers, but with possibilities. Which of these underwater riddles lingers in your thoughts? Is it the haunting intimacy of Atlantis-like TB-ravaged skeletons, or the cosmic ambition of the Eurasians who built a fortress doomed to sink? Maybe it's the simple, haunting beauty of Gelai's lion statues, forever roaring into the silence. Drop your favorites in the comments, and let's keep the conversation diving deeper. Because the ocean's greatest gift isn't just the secrets it's given up, it's the ones it's still holding close, waiting for the next curious soul to seek them out. Who knows, the next great discovery might just be yours.